Good evening, friends. Today at ITM Business School, my guest is Ravi Raman. Ravi Raman is a pass out from IIT Madras and he had done his postgraduate diploma in management from IIM Kolkata. Ravi sir, first of all, thank you very much for joining us for a small interview. And this interview is just a part of Campus to Corporate Social Responsibility program, where we just want to educate the stakeholder of the country that what is going in the economy.
Absolutely, let me try.
So, Ravi Raman sir is currently working as a MD at State Street and CEO of InfraHedge, which is again an MNC listed in New York Stock Exchange and Nasdaq. So, Ravi sir, I just want to know that currently we are going through a very good phase where we are seeing a lot of changes in the economy. We don't know whether it is a positive change or negative change. But you being into, you had worked in US, you had worked in various different countries and with the topmost brands also. So, Ravi sir, can you please put some light on the recent economic development in our country? And what is your view? Do you think that it is a real thing or it is just a statistical number which we are seeing right now?
Okay, so first thing is, it's very easy to say something is good or bad after the event. At the time of the event, it is about the intent behind the whole thing, that is what matters. And as long as the intent is to make a change for the better, I think we should say it is good, otherwise it is not. That's a philosophical standpoint. But beyond philosophy, let us get to brass tacks. Okay? And if you're talking about what is happening to the economy, there are some things which are good, some things which are not good. The things that are good that is happening to the economy is an essential belief that businesses can be clean, essential focus on larger degree of compliance. I mean, at least a larger number of people believe that they can actually do legitimate transactions more easily than they had believed in the past. And this is almost like what Infosys did in 1990s when Infosys said companies can do business in a clean, legitimate and ethical way, and that finally became a movement and many other companies followed suit. So from that perspective, I think what is happening has a very clear positive undertone. But at the same time, there are going to be challenges, there are going to be gaps, there are going to be mistakes, there are going to be impacts. Honestly, our generic view should be, if on a long term we are going to gain, we have to pay the price on a short term. Are we paying the price? Of course we are. But the thing that we are not seeing, which is the biggest price that we are paying, is the income disparity and dependence on externally driven revenues that were propping up all the urban economies, which is IT and the ITES sector.
Ravi sir, though you had mentioned that it is something which is once happened, then only we can come out with the result. But don't you think that recently we had seen recapitalization in the banking sector? I mean, if you see most of the banks, in fact PSU banks are already sitting with huge NPA burdens. I mean, don't you think that first the government should clean that burden and then they can think of recapitalization and all? Because in the real sense, recapitalization is just a book entry. There is no actual infusion of money which we are going to take in the economy or in the banking sector. So, I mean, what is your view on that? I mean, is that the step which was taken by the government to do this recapitalization concept? Is that a real justice to the banking sector, or they need to be a little strict in terms of lendings and all? Your view on that is very much required.
Okay, let me talk about Air India before I talk about recapitalization. Okay, how much ever money you pump into Air India, it's not going to save Air India until Air India decides to change itself.
Okay.
Same thing is true of banking sector.
Okay.
If our banking sector does not take risks, if our banking sector does not call out a credit which goes bad at the earliest possible occasion because of the fear of somebody saying that the loan is being written off fraudulently and things like that, I think our banking sector is so plagued by historical attitudes to credit. I think we don't have a good reforms in the credit behavior. Two is there is almost an absence of a viable bankruptcy legislation, and the things that we are doing today is actually taking away ability of entrepreneurs to take risk. And so today we are clubbing entrepreneurs who are taking risk in the same bucket as entrepreneurs who are defrauding the system. And naturally the banks are so scared, and so they are happier to give credit card loans than loans to enterprise that have a potential to deliver. And so I think I agree with you that the recapitalization, either in the form that is done currently as a book entry as you call it, or a recapitalization by hard delivery of cash to these enterprises, are not going to make sense till the banks learn how to run credit.
Sir, while mentioning, you had mentioned that banks are nowadays eager to do credit card business where they want to give loan by way of credit cards. At the same time, if you see the data and statistics, it's very clear that only 1% or less than 2% only the default take place in the credit card segment. Whereas if you see the NPA of big corporates, or in fact corporation, I will use the word, it is more. So I mean, don't you think that there may be some political pressure which is there on the banking sector, especially on PSU banks, that forces many a time these bankers to give loan to big corporate, and this lead to, in the further coming years, we see that there is a default and no action has been taken on various promoters of the company. Mm-hmm. So I mean, what is your, do you think that we are going in a active phase, or it is just a passive phase which we are doing?
I'm hearing two things that you said.
Yes.
You said the first thing is credit card loans, only 1% is defaulting.
Yes.
Okay. This is exactly how subprime mortgages were viewed by the American bankers in the early 2000s. They said that, what's the big deal? As long as I ensure that the collaterals are valued at least as much as the loans that are outstanding, I have no problem. And with an inflation in real estate prices, I will always have collateral. If I have a collateral, I don't care about the borrower. And what happened finally was, when the mortgages all went into default and the property prices crashed and the whole economy got hit. Same thing is true of a credit card loan, and credit card is just one of the types of the loans. It could be mortgages, it could be anything. The problem with retail loan is retail loans are going to be repaid as long as the repayer is employed. So it automatically goes into if the overall economy goes into a recession, either because of absence of credit or because of the absence of a dynamic equity market, it is definitely going to be impacting all forms of loan. Only thing is whether it is going to impact today or at a later point of time. So economy being buoyant, industry being active is far more important than the short-term indicators like default in retail loans being lower than default in corporate loans. And of course, I have to remind you that all the corporate defaults that we are seeing today are the corporate loans that were given when public sector banks were forced to give the loans. Whether that is the case in the last 3 or 4 years, we will know 10 years from now when these loans go into default. But today, the record on paper is clearly that SR managed to repay 12,000 crores by selling SR oil to the Russian conglomerate. So if you ask me, the efforts to bring down the NPA is visible, but it should be a lot more. But the fear of being called a fraudster is what is keeping bankers away. I think we need to unshackle the bankers, allowing them to take rational decisions.